When we went to Israel last November, I've mentioned this a few times, but we took a ton of video, and Micah, who's kind of our high school pastor, but he's also really talented with video work, and so we brought him to Israel and made him drag a 70-pound backpack around, and he shot some great footage, and he shot it all in 4K. To see it in 4K is amazing. And by the way, if you ever want to go online, you can see the videos we show up here. They're available in 4K. It's just kind of, if you want to almost like be in there, that's what you do. But I've decided to try something out on you guys, if you're willing, and that is 1 Samuel chapter 1 through 17. We've covered that in the last several months. We're in chapter 17 today. And it just kind of struck me as how we filmed kind of the whole journey from 1 Samuel chapter 1 all the way to chapter 17. And so I'd like to sort of recap that in our minds and have you see the places that we're talking about, the places we've been studying, and bringing it to this crux of the battle that happens in the valley of Elah. And so let's do a little review. It's not going to win any awards, Emmys, or anything, but it is, I think, helpful to just kind of see what the deal is. So let's take it. Why don't you roll it? 1 Samuel begins at the end of the period of the Judges, and it begins at the place of Shiloh, where the tabernacle was placed. The place where Joshua and the children of Israel would settle and set the tabernacle right here. They believe this is the very spot because the dimensions and the geography fits the perfect biblical narrative. But for 200 years, Shiloh was the place where people would come, make their pilgrimage, and worship the Lord right here. The book of 1 Samuel begins with Hannah, who prayed here at Shiloh and asked the Lord to give her a child. The Lord honored her prayer, and Samuel was born. Samuel would grow up here with Eli the priest, and eventually Samuel would grow to be the prophet of Israel. As the book of Samuel progresses, the children of Israel pitched their tents against the Philistines in a place called Ebenezer. Being beaten down by the Philistines, they decided there to bring the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh, and they brought it out to Ebenezer as somewhat of a good luck charm, thinking it would save them. So when the Philistines fought against Israel, they beat Israel and took the Ark of the Covenant. The Philistines would be a longtime enemy of the children of Israel. We picture them as an ancient people, but they really were advanced for their time. But because of their power, they caused all kinds of trouble for the Jews. They had 5 major cities, each one having a Philistine lord over each city. The first being Ashkelon, the city that was there at the Mediterranean Sea. And under the Canaanite rule, it was the largest seaport on the Mediterranean coast. Ashkelon, biblically speaking, was where Samson was able to have his wedding feast, and they figured out his riddle. It was Ashkelon where Samson went and slew those 30 men for their clothing. Of all the 5 cities, Ashkelon is one of the most beautiful cities, even to this day. It's a seaport town on the Mediterranean coast. The second of the Philistine cities was Gaza. As we traveled, we made it to the border crossing, but because of the political tension and the danger, we didn't cross into the Gaza Strip. But it's sad because it's a beautiful region that's been really torn apart by war and by the Hamas down in the Gaza Strip. But in Bible times, it was where the Philistines lived, and the town of Gaza and that region was where Samson was brought and put in prison and eventually killed, pushing down that big temple. The third city of the Philistines was the city of Ashdod, also on the Mediterranean coast. We were traveling there as the sun went down, but Ashdod was a place of great torment when the Philistines decided to bring the Ark of the Covenant, which they captured from the children of Israel, and they brought it to Ashdod in this city, where they put it in the temple of Dagon. And when they arose mourning in the temple, they saw Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the Lord. But that's not all that happened, as God's power was there not just to knock down Dagon, but the people were smitten with great tumors. It was so loathsome, the people of Ashdod said, "We need to get this ark out of our town." So the fourth city of the Philistines was the city of Gath. Of all the places we visited, this is the place that you picture in your mind when you read it in the Bible, and it really is exactly what you pictured. And it seems like the right place for Goliath, the champion of the Philistines, for him to have been raised in this city. The scriptures say in 1 Samuel 5:8, they sent the lords of the Philistines and they said, "What shall we do with the Ark of God?" And they said, "Let's bring it to Gath." So they carried it there, and it was so that after they'd carried it, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a great destruction, and he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and had emerods in their secret parts. Right there in Gath. Maybe Goliath was a young boy at the time, seeing the power of God that would ultimately bring him to his doom. We were hiking around this tell. We had fighter jets and helicopters flying around this tell, just evidence of more battles for Israel in the modern day as well. This is really an amazing dig right here. They recently dug this up. It's a temple that dates back to the 9th, 10th century BC, which is kind of amazing. It would have been the time period of David, Saul, even Solomon. But the Philistines no doubt worshipped here. They worshipped not only Dagon, like we know from Ashdod, but in Gath there was Baal worship and others as well, Ashtoreth. Who knows, this temple could have been a place where they worshipped all kinds of pagan deities. But they found all kinds of stuff in here, pottery, and just again confirming the Bible, everything the Bible says about this place. The fifth city, Ekron, we really couldn't find much about it. We just heard that there was a ruin out somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So we made our journey with our camera crew and had to drive way out into the middle of nowhere, and we finally found the ancient ruins. And there were only a few evidences of that ancient civilization, Ekron, where the Ark of the Covenant rested there with the Philistines before it would eventually be taken back to Israel. So the Ark of the Covenant was with the Philistines there for 7 months. And after it caused all the trouble, they called their priests and their diviners and said, what are we going to do with this thing? And so they came up with this plan to send the Ark of God on a cart with these golden sort of tokens, and they sent them away with these cows as the cows were just let go. Sure enough, the cows went straight to Israel, and the first town that they would come to is a place called Bet Shemesh. And the men of Beth Shemesh saw this cart coming, and they realized it was carrying the Ark of God. And it was there at Beth Shemesh where they decided to look into the Ark, which was not something they should do. And thus, there was a great death. And it freaked the people out so much that they sent the Ark away into Kirjath Yearim, where they left the Ark there for quite some time. Meanwhile, the children of Israel demanded that Samuel give them a king. And so God told Samuel at that point that Samuel was to go ahead and anoint a guy named Saul, who was a man of style and stature. And after King Saul had broken the commandments of the Lord and contradicted Samuel and did his own thing, then the Lord told Samuel that he would raise up another king, a man who was after his own heart, and ultimately coming to the young boy David. And Samuel anointed him, and it says the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from King Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. But it would be in the valley of Elah where the children of Israel would see a glimpse of the victory, not just in that day, but a victory that would be for all of Jews and all of the people of the whole world, coming from this young boy, David, future king of Israel, and ultimately the great-great-great-great-grandfather of our Messiah, Jesus Christ the Savior. Well, there it is, the Valley of Elah. That's where our story picks up. Well, thank you. That's great. Thanks.